Hey, this is Chuck, and you are listening to Fans with Bands, the podcast where we talk to the fans and the bands they dig about life, music, and whatever the hell else we want to talk about. Today on Fans with Bands, we're talking to EnD. Check it out. Oh, it's the nice voice. Hey, this is Chuck with Fans with Bands, and I'm talking to Eddie and Damon of EnD. How you guys doing?
All pretty good.
Yep. Excellent. And we've got a fan, Abigail. Abigail, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you? I'm
good. Awesome. So happy to have all of you guys here on Fans with Bands. Eddie and Damon, I feel like I know you guys, but I don't think I've ever seen EnD until Duo Fest. And I was just blown away by both the music, the kind of like this crazy controlled chaos of electronic sounds, but then the visuals, compounded with that. It was, I don't know, it was so wild to be able to just like experience it, and you could have like your own like little movie soundtrack going in your head. It was awesome. It was really awesome.
Thank you.
Oh yeah, thanks, man. We appreciate that.
So how did you guys get started? How did EnD come together?
What was that?
Something at
Modern Lady Fitness.
Right, yeah, Modern Lady Fitness at the
which
Dreamland
we have
Theater.
going on right now, apparently, too.
Yeah.
That's right. You won't be able to see this on the podcast, but Abigail's riding her bike while she enjoys the podcast.
There's also a band called Modern Lady Fitness.
Right. Chris Sandin and his wife's band. So I don't know, we both sort of ended up there, and we just kind of got started talking, about what we're doing, what we're not doing. And
and this is, I mean, we had been friends years before, but we
Right.
just hadn't seen each other in probably like, I don't know, 5-10 years.
yeah,
Oh,
I'd
wow.
say about 10 years.
Yeah.
Towards the end of the Elbow Room.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yep. That was
And
back.
so yeah, we just started talking and stuff, and then neither of us were doing anything musically, and Eddie was just like, well, just bring something over. And so I brought over the guitar that I actually still play.
Yeah. Which has a story behind it.
It does.
All right.
So one day a box showed up at my house from musicians' friends, and it had this ugly ass glitter black Stratocaster with a really bad like Marshall combo amp. And I'm like, well, if they ask for it, I'll give it back. But nobody ever charged me for it or anything.
Really?
So yeah,
They just shipped it to you?
it just shipped it to me, and then I was kind of like, there were all these things that, because I mod all my own, I mod everything, but there were certain mods that I had always wanted to try.
Yeah.
But you don't want to mess up a good guitar,
Right.
And here's this perfectly good free one.
right? That I don't want, right?
Right.
So the first thing I did was take a belt sander to it, which is actually still its existing finish, where
Right.
I just kind of got all the glitter off.
I am kind of sad that you didn't actually plug that in while you're belt sanding.
Yeah, we could have had it in an album.
So
But yeah, so then one of the things I wanted to mess with was a sustainer system, Fernandez sustainer system, which is, if you're unfamiliar, it creates instead of being a magnet that converts into electrical pulses into sound, it does the inverse, where it just takes electricity and turns it into magnetic field, and it's like an EBO for all the strings.
right.
Oh, wow.
As opposed to an EBO on one string
Oh, wow.
that you have to
Cool.
hold in your hand. Now
Yeah.
it's like
Yeah.
built into the guitar.
And then I also put on an onboard delay and tremolo, and I just kind of went to town on it. And that ended up being like my favorite guitar, because
That's awesome.
it had a pedal board on it. I mean,
Yeah.
and so I just brought it over and we just started messing. It's just like, that's just an ambient machine.
Right. Right. I mean,
It's-
heck, he would occasionally just turn that thing on and stick it in the corner face in the corner and then just start twiddling knobs.
Occasionally, that's what I do for half our set.
Well, I mean, in the beginning, see, we're still in the beginning stages of things. So
right.
But so, and at that point, I had, I've been doing junkyard noise music for since the early 90s. And so I mean, I kind of started building the beginnings of my sound lab probably a few years before Damon and I hooked up. And and I've released some solo stuff on Bandcamp. I mean, I've started building the studio that we're in currently now, starting in like 2001 on the west side of Ann Arbor.
Oh wow.
So yeah. So I mean, it's gone through a number of changes since then. We've moved from Motu hardware to Focusrite hardware and so on and so forth. And obviously the computer gets replaced every 10 years or so.
Yeah.
But so I'd built this coffin, which we're going to go into at some point, of just noise toys centered around a mixing board. So that was my instrument. His instrument was that guitar through a bunch of pedals. And then we went and did our first gig in a basement and quickly realized that my coffin was evil.
Oh, yeah, that was right.
If we'd not had Ralph with us, that night would have sucked hard.
It was 6 feet, 6 by 3.
Yeah.
Oh shit.
The 6 by 3
not 6,
box
I'd say 5.
made out of rebar,
five by
reinforced concrete, and it was
half-inch plywood. Let's get realistic.
Only half
inch.
Right.
So immediately after that gig, I sawed that piece of shit in half. And immediately built another box for the mixer by itself, and had 3 that I would just stack the mixer in between. And then it's just, honestly, we've just been on this evolution ever since. So
the basically the effects. So when I saw you guys, you had like basically these 2 cubes, which had like, it looked like they had speakers as well, maybe not, and then like video panels on there, or at least white panels.
Okay, so what you saw in front of us, those are just the lids to my road cases.
Oh. All right.
and we built those road cases ourselves. Last summer?
Yeah.
Oh, those are awesome.
Right. So, in fact, our logo is actually stenciled on that in glow in the dark paint.
That's awesome.
So, but yeah,
it's kind of like, where are we going to put these big heavy lids?
And they're white because we've painted everything white.
Right. And so it's like, let's just put them in front of us.
and they work, and they're perfect.
Because we used to hang a curtain there.
Right.
And now we just do that.
Yeah, we don't have to bring that stupid copper rod with us anymore. So, yeah, that kind of worked out. But yeah, I mean, so, from having us have my mixer and him going into an amp, you were using your Roland Jazz Chorus 120 for the longest time. We got into a few situations where, the house system was negligible at best.
Yeah.
So, he, as often happens, he talked me into getting the Mackies, because I was like not quite convinced at first. And then we did this one show where it was like, okay, dude, we're not relying on anybody anymore. We're going to go buy those. And we ended up buying the Mackies and the first XR 18, like, so almost right off the
2 Mackie Thump 15 powered speakers.
Yep.
Oh, okay, cool.
And basically, we come up with these kind of rules where it's like, the evolution of everything is always headed towards as compact as possible, to set up as quickly as possible, and is the same everywhere we go.
Right.
Yeah.
So what we do is we not to cut you off, but
no,
we each have our own XR.
Right.
And that each one of those goes out in stereo pairs, XLR, and feed those speakers left and right. We did put them on the floor. We're not going to put them up on stands.
Yeah, we're putting on stands now. But the beautiful thing with that is that if we're in a really tight, small venue that doesn't have its own PA system, or has one that sucks,
yeah,
we don't need to rely on that anymore. Right. And if we're in a space that's actually really good, the house system can just piggyback off of that. Like
Yeah.
the first time we did that, Mikey Wu was doing sound for us at the old Miami, and he was like, "Oh God, I love you guys."
Yeah.
Seriously, that's all you need is left and right.
Because he
like,
looks
yeah.
at this ridiculous gear setup, and he just thinks he's going to go to
Right.
Yeah, we're gonna totally shaft him, and he's
And we're
not
like-
gonna be able to do anything. And now he's in a position where he's like, "Oh fuck it, I can just leave and go get a drink of beer." I'm like, "Yeah, dude, seriously, like,
And we just
get the level
literally
set and go."
Yeah,
You're done.
left, right, XLR,
Yeah.
pump the subs. That's it.
He's thinking you're going to hand him this, snake of cables and go, here, figure it out.
right. Or worse yet, like a whole bunch of 1/8-inch stereo cables. Hey,
Right.
can you convert this?
Right.
Yep.
Yeah. To
Yep.
get this adapter, I left this one at home. Do you have this one too?
Oh my god!
Yeah.
Every sound man we've talked to complains about that guy.
Oh yeah, because as soon as they see the lengths that we've gone to, they're like, "Oh, I'm going to complain to you about everybody."
Everything, right.
That's awesome. So you've got like 30 releases out on Bandcamp, and has it been this constant evolution where you're like, I mean, you started off, as you mentioned, guitar, the Roland, and you've evolved over the course of time. Does each show then represent that progression? Because I was kind of wondering, like, when you're not just the technology that you're using, but I guess the inspiration for the music that you're making, has that evolved over time? Is it based off of, do you feel like it's changing as you go? Do you feel like the technology is pushing any of that, the different sound textures you're playing with, or is it more we're consistent with what we've been doing, but now we're using technology and that's crafting some ideas for us?
I don't think anything's consistent. I mean, we literally don't even discuss what we're going to play.
No,
Before
5
we-
minutes before we hit stage, we might like, "Hey, I have this one quick idea, but I'm not going to tell you the whole thing."
Yeah. Or he'll be like, "Oh, I've got this sample that I wanted to use at the beginning, so I want you to just wait 15 seconds before you start playing."
Wow.
And
So-
like that's the most planning we've ever done.
Right.
So then each performance is kind of
Unique.
Unique, but improvisational, right? You're
Completely.
leading off
Completely.
each other,
Including the
wow.
video.
Including the video.
Really? So
Yeah, that's
now
on
how
shuffle.
Oh, really? So you have no idea. It's
It plays a first so now just because we love to fuck with people, there's a video that is semi-synced to the intro, right?
Yeah.
So like,
Yeah.
we didn't have this when you saw us, this is brand new, but because I'm just that guy, I did an intro that was totally synced to the video, so it comes up, it says E, and when it says
Yeah.
Eddie and Damon, and like the logo kind of forms itself in the middle circle and then fades out, just to mess with people because that's synced.
yeah.
But everything after that point is a shuffle.
Right.
So there's just a playlist with like 94 20 to 70 second clips
Yeah.
Wow.
that are on shuffle.
Right.
Awesome.
And we and that's it. That kind of brings me to a point. So the one consistency has been our intro outro.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the intro is always pretty much the same. I might switch it up a little bit here and there, but the outros, that's where I have the fun. So, let's talk about our interpretive dance performance of Planet of the Apes.
It's just some random bullshit.
Bullshit, So,
That's crazy.
So our dark ambient cover of Tiptoe Through the Tulips.
And the crazy thing is, like, and it's been a while since I saw a good video of us that was longer than like 3 minutes or something like that.
Right.
We got that video from when we played down in Columbus, and I watched it and I'm like, oh my God, the music does sync up with the like, because after
we
almost
get accused of that all the time.
That's what I was going to ask you. Actually, that was one of the questions is like, how do you craft the music to go with the visuals, but you're clearly not.
Well, but here's the thing. Here's the other thing though, because like myself, I have the thingamagoop. This was built by Bleep Labs. Well, that's actually its name. This was built by Bleep Labs in Texas. They started making them in the early aughts, and it has a light sensor in the front that kind of helps craft what the synth is doing. So a lot of times, I mean, if you see me take my little friend and put him up and wave him at the crowd and stuff, I'm not waving him at the crowd. I'm waving him at the projector.
Oh.
And yeah, the projector is playing the instrument.
Exactly.
What? Oh my God. Now my mind is blown. So what is that wand thing that you had?
No. You're thinking of my drumsticks.
Yeah.
The glowy drumsticks.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. No.
It's a little green and black box.
Yeah. If
it looks like a pedal, pretty much.
Okay.
With a smiley face and eyes on it, and it's got the big reticular across the top that's got the light on the end. It's green.
Oh,
so
awesome.
Yeah, do a Google search for Thingamagoop. You'll find it.
Yeah. But the light is bent out, and it goes into a light resistor, and then that works on a pulse, and that's how you play it normally. But most people don't have a projector on them that's throwing random light patterns at them.
Yeah.
So when he holds it up to the projector, especially if it's a nice stark
black and white,
yep, which you'll notice he tends to do. I mean, it's actually difficult to even see what's being projected on us, period.
Right. Yeah. And it's sometimes it's like it's a matter of like me looking to the right and catching something that's white behind us that says, "Oh, I'm in a black and white situation. Let's do that."
Yeah.
But and I've created some videos. See, that's the thing, is we're starting to get into the realm of like creating our own videos, our own 30 to 60-second videos that go in there, and we've done some of that, and I've tried to play with black and white with that a lot. So cool. Just to kind of give a little bit more of it. So if you see our faces on ourselves, that's us. I did that myself.
So back to the videos, like, and you mentioned, I don't know how many, 70 some different random clips. 94.
Yeah, 94.
What's the source for those? Do you just
steal them?
Found and thought, oh, this looks cool, and boom.
It depends, because like I just said, we started out just stealing stuff because it was easier, and there's certain ones that we've stolen that are just like, oh no, this can't go. We kind of comb through and see what can we get rid of, but
none of them are rats. When you say we steal them, I mean, we decided, so originally we had a movie,
right,
that we had a friend make of just weird shit. And that got boring because it was like we did like three shows with that or whatever, and it was the same thing. And then we looked into like, oh, well, can we have the music actually create the visual? And that was not very feasible, or more work than I cared to put in.
Right.
And so I was just like, well, I'm just going to just go grab some weird stuff on YouTube and I'll mess with it. So a lot of it is like, there's a clip in there, I think it's my favorite one. It was an hour and a half projection, old 60s like acid gel in the drum head thing, right? It was like an hour and a half long. I sped it up, it's 1 minute and 30 seconds, and it just looks like amoebas fighting. Like it's just
I remember that visual because I thought that was really cool, and especially when you intersperse it with the black and white kind of the checkered patterns that kind of like oscillate through there.
Lots of optical illusion type stuff, and optical illusion stuff. But then like there's kind of this ongoing, for every time we're goofy, we're also intellectual, I think is so I have a very good friend who's a hypnotist, professional hypnotist, and I discussed a lot of this stuff with him, and I did a lot of research on my own. It was kind of like, well, how can one induce a trance state? Like, what are ways that this can happen, and what can we do musically or during our performance to kind of elevate this portion of the content? And so basically what it boils down to is kind of everything we've been talking about from a viewer perspective, is that the mind is a pattern finding machine. Yeah. And when you throw visual and audio randomness and bullshit at it, it starts to find patterns in those things. But it also is on overdrive, and it just zones you out, and you just feel stoned because your mind is cranking, no matter what state 100% CPU, And so it ends up creating that kind of overwhelming trance state or some kind of euphoria for different people react differently to it, but definitely like
overwhelmingly it feels like we get more comments that are like, how did you sync the music to the movie? and it's like, oh no, that's not us, your brain did that.
Your brain. That is so wild, because I swear, I mean, I felt it like I was saying earlier, when I was watching you guys, it was like I suddenly felt like this movie was going on, and that I was not projecting it, but I was experiencing it. Like all these different kind of emotions were kind of running through me, and I was thinking of like the music in terms of like, oh, I feel like this is, a star exploding, or, the gargantua is just eating this person, or what, something in that music was making me think of these different images, but they weren't necessarily the images you were showing, but it was, I don't know. It was wild. It was wild.
Yeah.
That's the intended result. Like,
absolutely.
The irony of most of this is that while we're on stage, we actually don't have any idea what's going on musically or visually. The projector is just a shining light in our eyes. We can't see the crowd. We can't see the visuals unless we like look at our bodies, which you're really not doing.
And we really only check in with each other like every maybe 5 to 10 minutes or so.
Yeah,
we'll look at each other, and then sometimes we'll make one of us will make the other one laugh, and then we're both laughing on stage, and people are like, "What?"
Oh man, that is such a trope. That was wild.
Yeah, but that's it's lots of drone synths and rhythmic drums and very just common trance elements that compound into this kind of experience, and it's different every time. We've had sets that are really dark and aggressive,
right?
Like we played down in Toledo, and that was just that set was just evil.
Wow. Yeah. That was it, and that was a weird night too.
Yeah.
Do you think that the either the venue, the crowd, that energy has any input into that?
I believe fully that it's a shared experience.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because I definitely I will definitely let go in my performance and really people talk about like when they're playing sports, they get in the zone and they're just watching themselves do a thing or whatever. And for me, when I can get into that state where I'm really not, I don't feel like I'm the person doing the thing.
Right.
Like almost like an observer, if I can step behind that and just listen and really get in that zone and that feeling, that's when the best stuff happens.
Right.
Absolutely.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, that is totally where it's at. Like you don't even know you're doing it anymore, and suddenly you kind of look down and I'm like, oh, I'm touching that. I'm making that happen. And then and the other thing too is occasionally we just let it play itself. Yep. We've literally stepped out into the crowd and looked at people like, hey, how you doing? What's going on, man? Check that out. Look at that. Look at what's happening right now. So, and people are like, what are you doing? What's happening right now? Why are you here?
Yeah. You guys you brought an AI in here, damn it.
Right.
Kind of in a way.
Well, and that's, I always start out with a computer generated intro and outro specifically to kind of give that bit of illusion, I always let my sound lab, do the intro and outro.
Yeah.
So,
but really that's just, we don't want to talk.
Right. Yeah, there's that too. We have microphones. We each have Bluetooth or wireless, RF mics that, I've gone out in the crowd and screamed at people and had it come through the other end. I've got some Bluetooth devices where I could control my iPads when they work right, maybe that's, that can happen. So it works better in the basement than it does out on the stage. For some reason.
But yeah, what I was getting at is when we record everything as well live.
Right. Because the XAirs give us the ability, they're essentially DAWs. They're not just a mixer, they're a DAW.
And the laptop that Eddie has on stage is not actually producing sound, it's only capturing sound.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes. People seem to think that the laptop's an instrument. Oh no, guys. Not even a little bit, man. That's literally just there capturing the experience.
That's awesome.
And
That's
so
awesome.
like, later that week, Eddie will mix it down, and then when I hear it, it's never anything like I remembered.
No,
wow.
never.
I mean, and I'm just always like, it's so strange. It's a strange experience because it's like, we did that.
Right. It's
That's
like-
wild. That is
And
so
it
wild.
literally, I feel completely removed from it.
That's
It's so odd. Like everything about this is just odd.
That's awesome,
right?
man. That is so awesome. So Fans with Bands isn't just me asking you guys questions. Abigail, did you have any questions for Eddie or Damon?
Maybe. I'm kind of like, I don't know. I just like to listen, especially about electronic music, because I don't plug my stuff in. I don't know how,
Yeah.
I just think about it, So like, I think if I was like, oh, what made you get into electron?
Yeah.
I want to think of a more interesting question, I guess. But
Well, I'm going to ask that one because
Maybe
I'm interested how you guys got into electronic. Well, so Damon, you obviously play guitar as well. Eddie, do you play anything?
Bass, guitar, drums, melodica, harmonica, theremin.
Awesome.
So I've been primarily a bass player. I was in Philo Beto.
We were both bass players.
Yeah, really, pretty much. So, I kind of got started very early on with the electronic music when I was working with William in Interface 7, back in the early 90s. And I mean, it was frustrating because he was programming everything via MIDI and it wasn't explaining anything. So, for the longest time, and eventually he got a MIDI guitar and I was able to actually start recording those notes and trying to figure that out and playing the sequential circuits 6-track, from my guitar going, whoa, that's crazy.
Yeah.
But I mean, I guess my first introduction to anything like that was probably Throbbing Gristle back in say 89,
Yeah, I was kind of curious, like what was what kind of music inspired you early on to want to get into electronic music? And so Throbbing Gristle.
Yeah, that was probably the start. But I mean, I got through working in Interface 7 and working with William, I started listening to all sorts of stuff, 808 State, My Life with the Thrill Kill Cult, I mean, of course, I discovered Ministry outside of that and like a lot of the Wax Trax stuff, early on. But, I was also very much a guitar player and a bass player and a drummer. So, that was kind of like I wanted to do that. And then I was doing mostly, I was working with Steve Goosen and Fathead and those guys in a band called Rust Belt Ensemble, where I was like beating on a bass with like a mallet and there's Fathead's playing his didgeridoos and Steve's got like this 5-octave like Rhodes keyboard, like just bashing on it, so that's kind of where I started with the experimental stuff was with that. And I kind of just gravitated towards that and started getting away from actually writing songs and bands. I found that lacking, and this, like, honestly, like this between the two of us has probably been like the most rewarding thing I've been in all of that. And,
awesome.
And I've done a lot of stuff on my own, but never like live, so.
Great.
I came at this from totally from a shoegaze background.
Right.
Like I started doing some kind of ambient shoegaze things when we said when I started off, I had all these pedals. I hadn't made anything myself yet. And
you were doing the Jealous type.
Yep. We did that for a while, which was more like a rock shoegaze
kind of blend.
Thing. And I started on my own doing some weird ambient stuff. And but that was all from the perspective of guitar.
Right.
And mostly just how many delays can I have, and so what happened with the evolution of that is I took that Frankenstein guitar I was talking about earlier, and I I wanted to play bass, but I didn't like the way playing bass sounded through, guitar pedals and all that stuff. So I'm like, well, I'm gonna get a baritone neck, and I'm gonna throw that baritone neck on here. And so I did that, and which at that point, then the only remaining piece of the original guitar that was left was the actual wood of the body.
Right.
That's it. I had literally totally replaced, I forget what the
not even the screws for the tremolo.
Nothing.
None of that.
Totally tremolo,
no.
everything.
Yeah. Mhm.
I had totally just flipped that thing over.
Frankenstein that thing into
What is it? The ship of Theseus.
Yeah. Yes. Right.
But so anyway, what started happening then was I'm tuning down to G, and I tuned to an open chord, because with the sustainer and my propensity to just like sit it on a stand and let it play itself, if it's not tuned to a chord, it's not making music.
Right.
Yeah.
It's just making, it's not going to be good. So the challenge of playing to an open G minor was one thing I had to learn from that. But also my pedals didn't work anymore.
Well, and the amp too,
and
because that was really where the jazz chorus was just like, oh, I got to get rid of this thing.
Yeah, because
it's cutting off half your sound.
It took me a while to kind of break it down and figure it out, but there were all these pieces in the way that when I switched to a lower register, they were rolling off the sounds I was playing.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
It wasn't doing full range.
Right. And bass pedals suck. So I was like, well, I either have to go back to the old neck and just abandon this, which I'm not very good at giving up on things.
Right. He's not. He's tenacious.
There's a way. There's a way, damn it.
Well, yeah. So I learned to start making my own pedals and then modifying them to make them full range.
Oh, wow.
And so then over the next probably 2 years, I cycled out every single pedal with one that I had made.
Except the tuner. That's the only thing.
I'm not making it. I'm not doing
why?
it.
Yeah, why?
There's no value.
This is perfectly good. There's no value to making this.
Right, exactly. It's not kicking in any sounds. It's good.
Right. And so and I mean, you kind of go, and I learned. I mean, I had some familiarity with electronics before that, but not near that level. Wow. And I started off doing breadboard stuff and doing strip board, and then I was
kits. You did a couple of kits.
Yeah, and then when I started doing the kits and then changing the values, and I'm like, you know what?
He started improving upon other people's stuff and then realizing why.
Yeah,
I can do this better than they can.
So I realized that I could just have my own circuit boards made.
Yeah.
So I started. Yeah, I started designing myself, and
that's
and the
wild,
rest is
man.
a giant money pit.
Yeah.
But then I switched over to the over COVID. We had a dramatic rebuild.
Dramatic rebuild.
I basically
you got time.
Right. So I switched over to the modular synth format from the pedals, because it's just easier to design circuits like that. You have, instead of just having 9 volts and ground to work with, you then have positive 12, negative 12, positive 5 ground. It becomes a lot more versatile as far as what you're able to do. You can make more full range circuits,
and it fits in a tighter space.
Yep. And so then we designed the racks that I have, which are just they hinge lids open up and lock, and then it just fits onto a keyboard stand. But in that process, I started building more and more drone synths.
Right.
And just kind of went down that rabbit hole at the same time that I was making
rendering my own Eurorack setup completely useless in the process. Well, because he's coming up with these drone synths that are just like, not only can I not compete with that, but I don't want to. He's taking. Well, I mean, let's talk about the Glockdiv for a second.
Oh my god!
And how? Oh my god, the Glockdiv it started out as this pedal that he created. He's like, dude, this is the gnarliest thing ever. I love this thing, and I'm just like, I hate that thing. I hate it. I hate
so
it.
It's Glockdiv
literally on all the time.
It's a glitchy octave pedal,
right?
right? So I had the sub and up pedal, which was perfect tracking.
Right. Perfect track.
And I'm like, but I don't want that. I want shitty tracking.
Yes, right. Like fuck you, Tech 21.
Yeah,
with your so perfect
Your
stuff.
fancy programming
shit,
skills
yeah.
and all your
I
all
want
your-
it. I want
all
it
your
dirty
chips
and
and
nasty.
money.
Damn it.
That's right. And so it was beautiful. He hated it, but it would just it goes for a walk, you know. It
Right.
kind of
It took over. It was completely uncontrollable. It did what it wanted to do, not what we wanted it to do.
most of my
awesome.
pedals have that mode, by the way.
Right? Yes. They do.
Do what you
They
want.
do.
Just go for it, pedal. Do what you want.
Right. Right.
Most people try to remove the self-oscillating features of distortion pedals and
Oh
stuff.
no.
And I encourage that behavior.
No.
I absolutely encourage that.
And then it becomes at the end of the set, are you gonna fucking stop? No. Oh, all right, fine. I'm
yeah, and
just
then I
gonna
put
go
in
back
battery
into it.
drains and all kinds
Right.
of other things to make things work wrong, and that's
Oh.
definitely fun. But
But the Glocktiv, like just the evolution of the Glocktiv, though, has gotten to a point now where not only does it's far more musical now in
yeah,
its current state.
so I switched from the octave because it's 2 octaves down and 1 octave up.
Okay.
And I always turn off the bass frequency,
Right.
like the bass line frequency that the through.
Yeah.
But I went from using a transistor based octave up, which is like your orange squeezer type, like your old kind of traditional,
Right.
Octave.
to a CMOS based one that sounds a little more theremin-y.
Oh, cool.
And then I put a little pot in there so you're supposed to be able to tune it in to be closer to the note so the tracking works better, but instead I didn't do that.
No. Not at all.
Kind of went the other way with it.
Yeah, and that's a good thing, kids.
And so it's got like this 2 octave, it was like 1 to 2 octaves up that just kind of goes to town. I mean, and it's a not always effect, but
No.
it has its times where it's just
Right.
it's just fun. But
So
like I
now,
said-
like, do you just kick it? Like, so you just think? I'm trying to think of it, like what your process would. I mean, because you're, improvising as you go. Do you just like
Building layers.
Glocktiv now, boom, and throw
So-
it in there?
that was another beauty of going to a modular synth model is I used to have to be linear in my thought process.
Right.
So here's where I plug my guitar in, and
Yep.
here's where it comes out the other side.
Yep, down the chain.
Well, with the modular model, especially my modular model,
Right.
there's most pedals have 1 in and 2 outs, and it's not stereo.
Mhm.
It's just for patching purposes, so I can
Yep.
route things wherever I want. And I have a bunch of sub mixers in there that I built.
Right.
And so the Glocktiv takes the original guitar signal after the first delay.
Right.
And that first delay is a full 7-second delay. And it takes that signal onto itself and it goes out to its own channel.
Yep.
Oh, okay.
Straight to the Behringer.
Right.
Okay. So then
And
you
so-
can then get some other. You can let it run and do its thing, and you can get another channel going.
Right. Because everything's being submixed in the Behringer. So we're literally using
The Behringers are not just there as a way to get the sound out to the audience or onto my laptop. They're instruments.
yeah, absolutely.
Very
Because I'm
cool.
routing stuff, I'm using the buses.
Yeah.
So I'm not using them as much as I used to, because I used to have a loop station
Right.
and all these other things that I
Right.
just segged out of. But yeah, I use the buses. I bring things back and forth between the mixer. I submix in there. There's some onboard effects that we use in there.
Yeah, a little bit here and there. Sometimes just for a little bit of extra added delay, or just a little bit of like reverb, just to have on something that's typically just dry. Particularly like myself. I remember I told you we both have microphones. We could talk to the crowd.
Yeah.
But I take that mic and I actually run that through a bit of delay. So sometimes I'll just start screaming into that. I will scream against his drones vocally, seriously, and have that build in and harmonize with them. you know.
wow.
So I threw like this whack ass like delay reverb thing going on in that for that. So you know,
Oh
or
my
even
God.
like I have one iPad that's almost clean, that that has just a little bit of reverb on it just to give it a little bit of room, you know, and that's the
Yeah.
one that I run the intro outros off of.
Mhm.
So it just gives it just a little bit of snapback. So even if we're in a small room, it still feels like, you know, you're kind of big.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, and
That's
then
crazy.
I also have in addition to the, so like my upper tier is kind of all drone synths. There's 12 of them.
Yep.
And they're all completely
They're all
different.
different. Every single one of them is different.
It was kind of like, how else can I make a drone synth? Oh, and then like they're all very different.
Well, right. When he was doing pedals, I mean, how you got up to 4 and the tiny theremin, that was about
Yep.
where you were at that point. And you were like, I think it was at that point where he was like, you know what? I really need to start looking into making this more modular
Yeah,
because
yeah.
this is taking up way too much space.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, because I was building boxes, everything, and
Everything
also
had to be
I
a
was really
box.
sick of drilling aluminum enclosures. Let me
Yeah,
tell you that.
No, screw that.
I was really, really sick of that. Which is,
Oh,
yeah, that's not a good time.
So,
But
so
then-
anyways, so the top
so-
part is all.
Yeah,
is
that's all
yep.
drone sense, and then on the wings of that, I have 2 chaos pads, one feeding into the other one. So those each have, the one has 2 samplers on it, the other one has 4 samplers. They both have, I don't know if you build a chaos pad, but it's a multi effects unit
Yeah.
that has an XY sensor pad that you can run your finger on to control.
It's net. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
XY.
And then you can,
And there's
when
a various amount of built-in effects into the chaos pad that you can apply,
right.
you know, singly across that. And then, you know, you can add however much of that you want or as little as
Mhm.
of that as you want. And you can feed whatever you want into it. It's got an in and out.
wow.
Yeah, so then I run my headset mic into the one, and then I play harmonica. I have an Aztec death whistle.
Yes.
That's good time.
Yeah.
It's this little whistle I found. It's obviously not an original.
Yeah.
Right. Because that would be made from what? The throat of is it like the collarbone or something? I don't remember. It's like hand collarbone.
I
or
don't
something. I don't remember.
But anyway, somebody was making replicas of them, and it's this weird like tritone whistle that literally sounds like a person screaming.
Yes.
And I guess the Aztecs,
And not a Wilhelm scream, but a real scream.
And the Aztecs would blow into these as they rode into battle. So 1,000 Aztecs or run into, I don't know which they did, but
yeah.
they probably ended up with horses for sure, but they weren't theirs.
Right.
But anyway, they just like these like huge hill full of insane people that are all painted up and these screaming whistles that just sound like it's insane. But
Awesome.
anyway.
So we were talking about the chaos pads and how we
Oh, yeah.
and the things that we put, you know, the things we torture them with.
Yeah.
So I see he has a KP3 that he runs as like the end of that. I have a KP3 that I have an iPad that runs into, that's got like various noise synths and so on and so forth. So and then the other chaos pad that you have going into the chaos pad is an earlier version of that, right? It's the
It's a KP2.
KP2.
Yeah.
Yep.
So now what do you do when you're in a show, and because there's a lot of gear here, right? And something starts to go south. Either something's
Always.
failing. Yeah. So
You just ignore it.
is
You're
it
like,
just
you're
part of
bad.
that?
You're gonna be punished later. Like we will deal with
No
you
more
at
of
some
you.
point. I'm gonna go over here and touch this now, and you won't be touched tonight. So yeah.
He has that benefit.
Yeah.
I do not. It depends on the severity of the going south.
Right.
I can tell you this, but at
You
our
have a
last
little bit
show,
more. You have a little bit more control over that now than you did previously.
it's different.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say I have control
It's
at all.
not as linear.
Right,
Control,
yeah.
control is a relative term in our situation.
Yeah, in the
So
world of
during our
chaos.
Yeah, right.
Right.
In our last show, my power supply was glitching on me in the top box, so I had to play part of the set with my hand inside the box. Hold-
This is the first I'm hearing of this. I didn't even know. That's awesome.
Just holding
And
it
the-
together.
Just holding
Yeah,
the connection in place, and then finally I just leaned into it and jammed it in there real bad. I would usually say good, but it was bad. And it seemed to resolve itself. So
That's crazy.
That's a thing you'll have to look at later.
I mean, typically, like I kind of have, and I've got to break this or something, but typically I start off on guitar and I'll build up, because the guitar ends up being a drone instrument.
Yep.
But I have to build it to that.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I have to play guitar for a while to get guitar sounds trapped in the guitar part.
Yeah, that's what I remember when I saw you guys, because you were playing the guitar and then all of a sudden the guitar kind of faded away, but it was there, there were sounds coming out from everywhere.
Right. So that's a combination of getting, because like I said, I have a 7-second delay, and that's on 7 seconds with full feedback. So I'll play a series of notes, and then they kind of report over the next series of notes, over the next series of notes, over the next series of notes. And that just gets a thing going.
Right.
And then I start to fuck with that. But I have to build that up. I can't just start cold from that.
Yeah.
So that I just get that out of the way. And then typically I throw the guitar in Slayer mode, and which is so the sustaining act has the benefit of it will do there's two modes, one where it vibrates the string at a normal pitch, and another one where it vibrates at a harmonic seventh.
Yeah, I think so.
I don't know, a harmonic plus pick any
Something.
number.
Yeah, pick a number.
But it ends up being Slayer tones. So so I usually do that, and I'll just set it down and maybe hit it every once in a while, or and I have a slide. Sometimes I play slide with it, but I do that while I don't need to hold it at that point.
Right.
I can
you just go
literally
over,
just
touch it, hit a chord, hit a
Exactly.
string, boom, do
Tap
something.
on its back, whatever.
Yeah.
Let it know it's still loved.
Yeah. Don't worry, little buddy. Don't worry. You're still here.
But yeah, I started with that, and then I usually go to the harmonica stuff after that, and then I end up in drone land. And mostly I do it in that order, because when I get into drone land, I get stuck and I just forget to do anything else.
Yeah. But that's by that point you're in that trance-like state.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
So
So
and
now
then,
you've got a certain amount of time during a set. So how do you get so you're creating this soundscape as you go, and then you get do you start thinking, is time starting to get into, I mean, you could go crazy and go, but do you
I have this timer that I have set that's
It's from like a kid's toy.
It's like a kid's toy that we've yet to perfect figuring out how to use. I think really it just comes down to, sometimes I'll bring the recording up and watch how long has the recording been going, and try to think how much time did I start that beforehand?
Yeah.
And look at it and go, okay, so we're really into this. They're really into this. No one seems to want to stop us. So let's just let that go. But I know that we're probably like 5 to 10 minutes away from where we should probably just stop.
Yeah.
And so our sets kind of almost naturally end anywhere between 25 and 45 minutes.
Yeah. Because when I saw you guys, it did feel like there was like a, I don't want to say resolution, but it ended. It wasn't like, oh, time's up,
Well,
hard
yes,
gate
we get to a
stop
point where we start to look at each other and go, okay, this is where we should probably stop. And on that, because we were kind of pressed for time on that.
Yeah.
Because we were, because they wanted us to stay at half an hour,
25 minutes,
25 minutes.
Yep.
So, but the thing is we got to the point where it's like, all right, we're going to bring this down, and then I'll hit my outro. And as soon as we started going out, the other band kicked in. So you never really got to hear our outro unless you listen to the record.
Yeah.
No, we didn't release that.
Oh no, we didn't release that.
We
No,
forgot
that's
to
right.
hit record.
Yeah. Well, yeah, there was a nervous technical difficulty involved in that. Yes, I didn't start the recording until like 5 minutes into the set because I'd completely forgotten that I
Oh.
usually, well, this is the thing. So when we do the recording, what I usually do is once we hit the stage, once I get the laptop set up and get everything squared, I usually just hit record at that point, no matter how much, because I can cut that off. It's digital.
Yeah.
I can delete that later. It doesn't matter.
Yep.
But because we went on first and there was a lot of like, I don't know, it just felt kind of,
it's a lot of time, and we don't do well with time.
Right. Right.
It's like when we're rushed and we only have 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Okay. Boom, 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 boom. All right. I'm ready.
Okay. Yeah. And then
when we have 2 hours, like an hour,
right.
You start like, oh, I need to do that, but I don't want to do it now because it's not time.
Right. Right. Exactly.
And then you forget about it.
Yeah. So we got all set up because we were going on first, and then had time to go, I don't know, run to the bar, grab a beer, go do this. Right. Oh, and now suddenly like 5 people talk to me on the way back. And, my attention deficit disorder is like in full effect. And, so yeah.
We definitely work best under pressure.
Yes. Yes.
Excellent.
Yes.
So where do you guys think you'll, I mean, you've been doing a bunch of shows all over the place. Is there some place you really want, like either a particular venue or a festival or someplace you would really like to perform?
Well, one of the things that we're definitely trying to do is get out of town more.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
We've done Chicago, we've done Columbus. We'd really like to play Pittsburgh, Cleveland, Cincinnati,
Dayton.
Like the whole like kind of within 4 hours of here thing, like Pittsburgh,
Fort Wayne, maybe even.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Yeah.
And get out of Detroit a little bit. We've kind of played every venue. I'd like to play L Club, but I don't think that's really in our sights.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Well,
just because that place is canceled or whatever, but they've got a great sound system.
Well, and it's a great room.
Yeah.
And like when they were doing the Trip Metal Fest stuff, I would have loved to have gotten in on that, but then they stopped.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
they run stereo subs, and they have the speakers are along the top of the I don't know if you've ever been in there, but you look up along the wall, there are time delayed speakers
really
that line both sides, and so that no matter where you stand, you get the exact same sound.
Wow. I didn't realize that. Wow,
yeah,
that's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because I saw Earthless there.
I was at that show.
Yeah, it was kick ass.
That was an amazing. That was an amazing show.
Timmy's Organism. Didn't he open that one? Maybe.
I don't remember.
Yeah, but I
don't think so. I don't remember there.
Or maybe I'm thinking of a different show because Timmy's Organism was on. I saw another one with 1,000-Yard Stare. But anyway, maybe it was Yob. No, it wasn't Yob. I saw Yob there too.
Oh, I would have loved to have seen that.
Yeah, that was fucking awesome.
That would have been epic.
Yeah, it was really good. Abigail, did you have any other questions?
Actually, I did think of a question.
Okay.
If you can hear me okay. I was like pipe under a bathroom, so I could hear all that. I had to move. I was trying not to be loud. Everybody going to the bathroom at the same time. Going back to like your music, do you have any special or random names for like sections or certain sounds that you make, like maybe in your set, like, oh, this is the ambrosia salad part, or like the hamburger bit? You know what I mean? Do you have special names for stuff like that ever that you can think of?
Most of it just comes down to what instruments doing that sound. Although the K-Oscillator Pro that I use is an actual synth as opposed to like the KP3, which does effects, and there's like a couple of certain sounds in that are just like, I'm gonna do the creepy sound, like that it's got that kind of thing.
In order to name something, we would have to repeat it,
right? And that's the thing is, for the most part, I end up referencing certain sounds through most of what I do a little more frequently, but but not quite as much. And with what Damon does, it's completely irreproducible in any way,
Right.
shape, or form.
Yeah,
I can't reproduce like the notes or the feeling that goes
Right.
on. Sometimes I can reproduce the sounds because I'm doing a little bit more off the shelf. So
Because you didn't really plan it out much beforehand. It's more improv anyway. So I guess you wouldn't have
Right.
like, hey,
yes.
whatever part. Like,
well, but
Yeah.
there are certain things that we touch back on every now and then, certain samples, like particularly with like the K oscillator I have like a set of eight sounds that I use all the time, but I'm also running that through stuff. So it doesn't always sound the same.
Yeah.
Right.
In fact, that's actually running through a Boss Terra Echo. It's like, honestly, the only use for that pedal, because that pedal was designed for guitar, and I tried playing a guitar through it, and I was like, this is dumb. And then I started putting synths through it, and I'm like, oh, wait a minute, this is like, if I put it on the table next to the synth, this is playable.
Nice.
But
So
to kind of inversely answer your question, or roundabout answer your question in a different way, when we used to record everything,
Right.
like we used to record all of our practices, and we would release those as songs,
and we would edit those. I mean, those were like highly edited. So if you go to our Bandcamp site and see there's sessions, and then there's live. The sessions, those are done here in this basement.
okay.
but it's still improv.
It's still improv, but we'll cut it down. We'll cut it in half. We'll cut out stuff that just didn't really feel like it worked.
Yeah.
Cut it down for time. Sometimes, even a little bit here and there, maybe cut something out and have it repeat a few times within that, and just like drop it in a few more times and kind of just adjust it to make it work.
Yeah.
So those are more edited, but not highly edited.
So what I was going to say is that then we would have to come up with names for these songs, because now we have a song.
Right.
Right. And so like, I ended up using, making a database of quotes from Kurt Vonnegut books. And like, so those ended up being, so if you notice, like if you go back to our earlier sessions, every other song
is a Kurt Vonnegut
quote.
Right. Yeah.
And then Eddie would just come up with some random bullshit.
I'm all about non sequiturs, man. So
Awesome.
whatever happened randomly in my day, that just became a song title.
Oh
Yeah.
man, that's awesome. I think that beautifully fits in with music, right? Because it's
Right.
these kind of organic, cosmic, weird chaos, experiments that you do, either in the studio or live, and then whatever you're thinking of when you're listening to it or not listening to it, just come up in the day. Oh yeah, this is the Peach Pit in my Harry whatever fucking song, or
What do we do? We did some sessions where we had other people come into the studio. They were called in the tool shed
In the tool
sessions.
shed.
Oh, the tool shed. Yeah, I was going to ask you about those.
Yeah, we did one with Pete Larson. We did one
Yep.
with Fred Thomas.
Various people.
Various other. Yeah, we did one live at the show on Saturday.
Yep. With Aubrey Smith from Armageddon Beach Party.
Yeah,
Oh, cool.
we still haven't finished mixing that one down,
Yeah,
but
that'll get finished probably tonight or tomorrow.
Excellent.
But yeah, we started bringing in other people to like challenge us.
Right.
Like, okay, we've kind of gotten used to what we do.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, we can work with each other, and that's not even like weird now.
Yeah, we're like falling into patterns. And
So how's that been going? I mean, is it
Well, COVID kind of put a huge
kibosh
on
on
that.
it. Yeah.
yeah, right.
So I mean, I think it's funny, with Pete, we brought him in, and he's playing his Neotiti. Have you heard?
Yes.
You know what the Neotiti? Have you heard his two records?
I haven't. I actually saw him at Fuzz Fest.
Oh my
right.
God. Like,
Yeah.
so that first record ended up being on my top 10 list that year. It's good.
Yeah.
Particularly the vocals back and forth between him and Kat. But regardless, we love Pete, and having him come in was kind of awesome, because here's this resonant instrument,
Yeah.
I know where you're going with this.
And now you get to tell the rest of the story.
So we're midway through the session, and I realized that one of my oscillators crossed over the resonant tonality of his instrument. And so I realized, oh,
I'm playing.
I can play his instrument.
while,
So
he's,
I started,
while he's playing.
right. So he's sitting there plucking his 7 strings or whatever.
Yeah.
And he keeps looking at it, and I'm just giggling. And after we finished, he's like, I don't know what was up with the instrument. It was just kind of like playing itself. It was going crazy. I'm like, yeah, I kind of figured that one out, and yeah, I was playing that for you.
That's crazy. I love it.
Yeah, it was good times though. It sounded amazing though.
Yeah.
like
Yeah, we got some good stuff out of that.
yeah.
Awesome.
And then working with Fred, it was funny because Fred, we had technical difficulties with working with Fred the entire time. He goes, it's me. He goes, anytime I get around technology, it's cursed. It just stops working. But
I forgot about that. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. But even through that, like, some of his stuff came through like mono at times, just because, like the left stopped working, or the right stopped working. But even through that, like we just were able to like kind of work with that and make it a thing. And
That was weird. That turned out sounding like the early Grateful Dead record.
right.
Oh,
Right.
really?
Right.
In a
I
really
gotta check it
odd.
out.
Yeah, it's really odd.
And I think this was even before, like we recorded that even before he started working with Pete regularly too.
Mhm.
Like he was just getting
Yep.
started working with Pete.
That's true.
And
Oh,
and
so
I think,
that was a while back then, right?
yeah.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
knew both of them independently from.
Yeah.
I mean,
Okay.
Oh yeah, I've known Fred since Chore.
Yeah.
Pete, like I think like my 4-track back in the day was used to record Huasim and what was it, the what was that other Cornelius Gomez, like all that early couch stuff. Like my 4-track ended up getting used for that stuff.
Oh, awesome.
So, right.
Very cool.
You never recorded any of those bands like Battalion or anything, did you?
Oh no,
Yeah.
but I saw Battalion because I was living with Lee Davis at that time.
Oh, were you really?
Yeah.
Oh no shit, that's crazy.
Yep.
And you survived.
And I survived. That.
Yeah, I was gonna say, man, that had to be a trip.
Yeah, that was very weird. That was a very weird house.
Is that when you were living with Ralph as well?
No, that was Ralph. I lived.
You
with,
can't have the two of them.
No. I lived with Ralph long before that. A couple of years before that. So
Oh man, that's awesome.
yeah, Ann Street. That was Lee, Doug, Tony Devan, and Sean, whose name is escaping me right now, the British guy.
Crazy.
Anyways,
Awesome.
so yeah, that was a while ago.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean,
That was a Wayback Machine.
right. Well, I've personally lived in the Ann Arbor Ypsi area since 1989. So,
Same.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's when I moved here. Yeah.
And that was the year that Battalion started in
Right.
in my basement because I was living in Pinckney at the time. So
Oh, really?
yeah.
Cool.
And then we moved out. Well, I think Lee joined right
Late.
before. Yeah, he was.
Because he was done.
He was
with
in harm's way. Yeah.
Yep. In fact, my 4-track was used to record a Harm's Way demo.
Oh,
when
really?
He was. In fact, they were just in the process of kicking him out of the band. That was a very strange session all the way around.
Yeah. Oh wow, crazy. Well, guys, I really appreciate you being on Bands with Bands. Abigail, thank you for joining. I just have
Thanks for having us.
one last question for you guys. It's the controversial question. It'll be interesting to see what you guys have to say. Pineapple or no pineapple on pizza?
Oh, dude, I'm totally
Abomination.
pineapple. I'm totally pineapple. Pineapple and jalapeno.
I grew up on
With
an
either
island.
bacon or ham.
I grew up on an island, and most pizza here is an abomination anyway.
Right. Yeah. I can actually agree with him on that. New York pie all the way.
Also, the toppings on a bagel go on top of the bagel and are limited to about 5 different things. They're not baked in the bagel.
Right.
Awesome. So it's a band divided on the pineapple. Then it sounds like.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah, I won't eat a pineapple.
Well, but see, the wonderful thing is though, is that his favorite pizza is like pineapple and mushroom, and that's typically
Pineapple and
pepperoni and
Pepperoni
mushroom.
mushroom.
And that's like my typical go-to.
All right.
So the
Excellent.
pineapple and jalapeno thing is like kind of like an occasional thing.
So he'll do bad things.
I do bad things on occasion, and then occasionally we do something together.
And Abigail, I can't remember, what was yours? Were you pineapple? No pineapple.
I'll eat pineapple. I just won't eat ham.
All right. Cool. All right. Sounds good.
So jalapeno's good.
Yeah,
All
that
right.
sounds
Cool.
other. I'm gonna try that actually.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep.
Yeah. That's come up a couple times with people that like pineapple on pizza is the jalapeno for the sweet and spicy. So
Right.
yeah.
Best with fresh pineapple as opposed to canned.
All right. All right. Awesome.
Before you put it on your pizza.
All right, guys. Well, thanks again for being on Fans with Bands. I really appreciate
Thanks
it.
for having us.
Yeah. Thanks for
Yeah.
having us. This
Hell
was
yeah.
awesome.
Thanks. All right. See ya.
All right.
Yep.
Take care.
Yep.
Thanks to Eddie, Damon, and Abigail for joining me on this episode of Fans with Bands. It was so cool to take a peek behind the curtain and hear how the music of END is created. Re-listening to our chat, I was blown away all over again. Each unique performance from END is out on their Bandcamp page, so get over there and hear it for yourself. Then, go see them live for a real treat. See the show notes for all the details and links. These are tough times for everyone in the creative industries such as music. Your support of live streaming, purchasing music, and merchandise is critical. If you can help out your local artists, please do. If you are in the Michigan area, consider following the Playing in the Detroit Area Tonight Facebook page. It is a place for fans and bands to support each other and share our combined love of music. Thank you all so much for listening. Be sure to hit subscribe on your favorite podcast service to get each and every episode of Fans with Bands. Spread the word by rating the show and leaving a comment. We want to hear what you think. You can keep in touch by following us on social media. This is a Life in Michigan production. Until next time, be well and kick out the jams.